Greetings, everybody. You'll have to forgive me before I started this session. I stopped abruptly to tune in to the resumed impeachment trial just to hear how Trump's lawyers signed off. I don't want to waste more time because you probably saw the previous video in preparation, hoping to do Yud Daled Amud Beis in Rif, and then you saw that I stopped abruptly to tune back into impeachment trial. So everything I have to say about this historic day and this time period that we're in, I already said in the last video that got aborted. Like I said, for the irresistible compulsion to tune into the impeachment trial to see how it ends for the time being. The only one thing I want to recap, although I mentioned before, is that today, Beit Shvat, is the yahrzeit of my father-in-law, Shlomo. I know his name. I do. Shimon ben Avram Shlomo, and all the learning that we do, be it whatever goes on the channel, be it everything that I do today, all the learning should all be Lili Nishmaso. Right, and this day of his yahrzeit, Be'ezer Hashem, will prove to be historic, if not just for the fact for the peace plan that President Trump announced today, that clearly is the best deal we can have until Mashiach comes. Definitely secures Israel's sovereignty and security, like I said, as best as we could hope for until BS Gold said, which should happen b'meira b'yameinu. All right, without further ado, the great thing about doing Riff is that it's very concise. So even though we missed about a week or more, we're still not behind where the real Daf Yomi is holding at, because it's so concise. And that's a big chizuk. This part I'm recapping from my last video. It's a big chizuk. Why this Daf Yomi and Riff is a great idea, because if you ever have a slump like we had, you miss for whether better reasons, worse reasons, makes no difference. If you ever drop out, it's not hard to get back in. Not hard to catch up if you're measuring up against where the real, the regular Daf Yomi's at, because since it's so concise, you're always ahead of the curve, or alternatively, it's just not hard to catch up. So it should be a big chizuk. Chazal say, and I'll just, everything that I've ever said in endorsing, and advocating for learning Rif, aside from the fact that the Rambam says so, could all be summed up with the famous Maimer Chazal, Tafasta Meruba Lo Tafasta. You want to grab onto too much, you won't grab onto anything, right? And in that way, one could argue that about Daf Yomi in general. In the regular, it's just too much, but it's certainly true when people drop out. They drop out for a week, for a month. They lose faith, and that's generally what happens to most people. Very few finish it, from cover to cover. Riff is tafasta muat tafasta. We summarize it to make it as minimal as possible, easy to retain, and it's not hard to get back on the horse after dropping out, because you will surely catch up very quickly to whatever topics the regular Daf Yomi is holding. Okay, so we are in the bottom of Yud Daled and Al 14a in the Rif pages. So they asked the following question in the basement. Maushi comes up with tefillin, basically it's a kavod v'yashtin bahen mayim. Person wearing tefillin is, this may sound shocking because for thousands of years over 1,000 we've been practicing the final ruling, but it was at the time, it was a query, right? You want to go into tefillin, into a basic kisei kavua, a real toilet where there's always feces there. It's a set place where people defecate. Our toilets, by the way, you ask your local Orthodox rabbi whether they have a din of base kisei kavua, because there's an argument that the feces doesn't sit there for any length of time, it gets flushed, right? Although one could argue the other way, since it's a designated room, it is a base kisei kavua, and yet there are nafkaminas. You will consult your local Orthodox rabbi. By the way, we're talking about before indoor plumbing. as Rashi points out, they're designated places in the field where they went to defecate. So can you go there wearing tefillin to urinate? Which means, you may urinate wearing tefillin. It's not the best thing to do, but you may do it. But defecation or farting, releasing gas, that is prohibited. So the question is, can you go in there wearing your tefillin, right, to urinate, right? Which that act, being wearing tefillin and urinating per se is not the problem. Obviously, according to the problem is the location. So what's the doubt if that itself is not the problem? Although, do we worry that since you're in the environment of where people do defecate, do bowel movements, that because of the location, you'll feel prompted and you will excrete while wearing tefillin, or you will minimally, fart, release gas. Right, so we're afraid that because of the location, you may be inclined to do so, and that is prohibited to do in tefillin. One may not definitely, one may not have a bowel movement, one may not fart, pardon the expression, while wearing tefillin. So are we afraid perhaps that being in a Beis HaKisei, where that's what goes on, you'll be prompted to do it? Ravina charge, so Ravina permitted. So since we're not worried that you're going to do that, so just go in there and urinate, even wearing your tefillin, and yeah, the and leave. Right, the right now the way I explain is according to Rashi. Rashi assumes that you are going in there. This is the riff as he is explained by Rashi on the side. Literally going into tefillah, into a base kisei kavua, but you're not going there to have a bowel movement. You're going to urinate, right? Is it permissible or is it not? Because you may feel induced, because of the environment, to have a bowel movement or to pass gas. So Ravina permitted, said, since that's not what we're not worried that that's what you're going to do. Ravada Asar. But Rav Ravada, the son of Masna, he actually prohibited that. Also, Mishayla Rabba, they went and they asked Rabba, right? Amalu, so he paskin for them. Asur, no, it is prohibited. Do not go in wearing tefillin if it's just to urinate. All right, Xer Hashem Yefrem, Hashem Yefrem, because indeed we are decreeing, we are outlawing it for the reason that we are afraid that you may pass gas or may actually have a bowel movement while wearing tefillin. So therefore, we outlaw going into a Beis HaKisei Kavua wearing tefillin if it's just for a purpose of urinating. We outlaw that lest you come to pass gas or have a bowel movement while wearing your tefillin, as that place would make you feel inclined to do. And so now it's interesting. It seems that there's quite a Mephorsha Tosefta to this effect. Right, the way to do it if you are going to go into a toilet. So first remove your tefillin 4 amos away, from the toilet, then go in there. And you should also distance yourself by 4 amos when you leave, and put the tefillin on. Divrei elu divrei Beis Shammai. These are words of Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel omrim. Now Beis Hillel says ochzam biyado v'nechnas. So Beis Hillel says, they're much more lenient. You may hold them in your hand and go in there. Right. So now I'll tell you where what's different over here than the inquiry that we opened up with is that this Tana Rabbanan assumes you're actually going, talking about you go in there to do everything, not just the urinate, defecate, to pass gas. So that's why this Tana Rabbanan was not relevant to the question that we raised before. This Tana Rabbanan is, what do you do if you are going into the Beis HaKisei to actually, have a bowel movement or to pass gas? So Beis Shammai, which is definitely prohibited. this is definitely prohibited while wearing tefillin. So Beis Shammai said it's not enough to not be wearing tefillin. You must take the tefillin off 4 amos away from the Beis Hakisei and then go in. And then also, this is some 4 amos, and then you put the tefillin back on. Beis Hillel says, you just hold them in your hand and go in there, right? Right, so, okay, so of course you're not allowed to be wearing it when you defecate, right, when you have a bowel movement, but you are permitted to hold them in your hand inside the bathroom. Also a big nichlas, right? So Kiva, he's somewhere in the middle, so he doesn't want to permit you to just hold your tefillin in hand when you defecate in the base kisei, or says you wrap them in your garment. The big desires, we actually wrap in your own garment. Right? Right? Maybe they used to wear, they used to wear like togas, right? So let's say if it means in his, wrap it in your garment. If we take Rabbi Kiva literally, which the Gemara is going to say can't be taken literally. Well, let's say so you have your toga, you roll up your toga. Right? It's it's kind of like a skirt. You roll it up. So you roll up your tefillin. When you get up after you've had your bowel movement, so you might forget, release the toga, right? And so the toga unravels. The rolled up toga, unrolls, and out fall your tefillin. It'll lead the tefillin to fall. Right? So that would be bad advice on Rabbi Kiva's part to tell you, right, to wrap them in your garment, right? Ella ema oxam bebigdo ubiado benichnas. Rather, we have to revamp what Rabbi Kiva said to be not that you wrap it in your garment, but you wrap it and continuously hold it. That way, so you don't wrap it and then forget about it, because then you'll forget about it. You get up, it unrolls, and out fall your tefillin. No. So you roll it up and you continue to hold it as it's rolled up, right? But with this, you actually do enter the bathroom, yes. And this is the halacha, by the way. This is the halacha. It's nice to have someone else watch your tefillin when you go into the bathroom. That's if you could really entrust them to someone, not if you can't. We're about to learn, right? The Rosh Hashanah goes on over the but don't leave it, let's say, in a cubby hole, unattended, right? Perhaps let's say people are traveling again. These public restrooms were out on the field, but they would have places, a little hole in the wall. People used to do it behind a wall, holes in the wall. Don't do that. Do not leave your tefillin unattended. That don't do. It's a chumrah that will backfire on you. Because a passerby may take it and cause you to fall into suspicion. Because we're not just worried about the tefillin being stolen. It could be worse than that. It could be stolen and used to blackmail you. Yeah, that was. Is before people blackmail you by leaks like they do to the president, right? This is like blackmail because someone will take your phone, which they want to recognize as your phone, and use it to blackmail you, right? And cause you to, cause suspicion to befall you. As the Gemara, backs this up with a story. There's one Talmud Chacham, a student, right? That he left his tefillin, wanted to walk in holding his tefillin, like the halacha prescribes. He wanted to be more machmir or whatever, just leave the tefillin outside of the Beis Hakisei. They put it in one of the holes that are near Rosh Hashanah. They're easily accessible to the passersby. And the prostitute came and took the tefillin, and indeed, caused the guy public shame. She came before the rabbis. Look what this guy gave me. as my fees for services rendered for consorting with him, right? God forbid. So, Chazal really worried about that. Tefillin that could be identified as yours, a person using, use it to frame you, blackmail you. Amazing. Even back then, they're worried about these things. And after her hearing how she framed him that way, he went up, to the roof and fell and died, right, out of anguish. Right? Um, that's when they actually institute that you should not leave them outside of the Beis Hakisei. You should take them in with you, but in the way that Rabbi Kiva prescribed. After we explained Rabbi Kiva properly, wrap it in your garment, but continuously hold on to it, continue to grip it even after it's wrapped. That's what you should do, and you should not leave your tefillin unattended outside of the Beis Hakisei when someone passerbys could grab it, and use it to blackmail you or to frame you. Of course, this is all talking about in public restrooms. Take it in with you. Don't leave it unattended. Of course, in your own house. There's no reason why you should walk in with your phone holding your phone in the bathroom. This is talking about when using public restrooms, right? Protect your tefillin that they should not be snatched and used to frame you or blackmail you, right? Rav Miyasha Bered Rav Yehuda ben Yeshua ben Levi. Right, so now Rav Miyashia, the son of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, said as follows. And this is the halacha. Halacha golan k'mitzvah tov v'ochsam b'yamino keneged libo. The way it should be done, most properly, is to roll up the ritzus, right? Right, Right, so as Rashi explains, the straps of tefillin are very holy, because aside from their innate holiness that they're made l'shem kedushas tefillin, but they spell out the divine name. With we use the straps to spell out Shakai, as is well known. So because they're part of the divine name, roll them up. They shouldn't be openly, because that way, if they're rolled up, right, they could be totally concealed when you wrap them, or even when you grip them, if you're forced to grip them with your bare hands, right? As opposed to having the ritzus unrolled, and they'll be spread out, and much of the ritzus will be exposed, and will peek out from under your hand and the garment that you're using. So roll it up so it could be, and they are confined, to what's being covered or what's being confined to the grip, right? So roll up like a sefer Torah and hold in your right hand parallel to your heart, right? Even a place that will be you'll never forget about it, right? So now Rashi says that what would say your right hand, Rashi Shelo big no kadesh lo yiplu, that he's actually saying not in a garment. This is how Rashi understands it. You ask your local Orthodox Rebbe, you look at the halacha, that roll it up, and that way it's confined to the grip, like we said. And he said, don't use a garment, because as we know, sometimes a garment could make your grip, loosens the grip, and it could slip out. If the grip is more solid if you're holding in your bare hands. That's what he says to do. Not, that's the riff according to Rashi. So wrap up the tefillin so that the ritzuas, the straps, are not exposed because they're all wrapped up. That way they're confined to the grip, and keep it in your bare hand on your heart, and that way the tefillin are properly protected. Amar Rav Yosef, Bar Minyonim, Rav Nachman, Tefach. So commenting on what we said before, roll it up, to the point, right? It doesn't have to be rolled tight, but it has to be to the point that not a tefach of ritzua, not a, tefach is roughly a fistful. This length, length of a fist, right? That amount of ritzur should not remain exposed. And roll it up to the point that amount of ritzur would not be exposed. Amar Rav Yaakov Baracha Amar Rav Zera Bayom Golon K'min Tzavtor Bala Osan Kis Tevach Umei Nichan. So Rav Zera said, by day it is sufficient to roll it up like a Sefer Torah when you need to go into the basic. He said, but at night when we don't wear tefillin anyway, right? So make them a container, a kist, and that's where the kist tefach, a pocket that's at least a tefach, right? That's like that's what's called, gives a sheer oil. That it's confined. It's confined. That's confined and not out in the open. As opposed to if it would be less than a tefach, it's like you just wrapped in a piece of cloth. So it's like you've created a confinement for him, and that's the tefillin decal that we have. The tefillin thing that's based on this Gemara. That's where you should store it for overnight. Right? And tifach gives it like a din of oil that it's it's like called a compartment. Less than that would be just called that you wrapped it in cloth. It's not called that you put it away in its own compartment. So again, that which Zera said, you only need this at night, is because the assumption was that during the day, you're going to put them back on again. So you're just rolling it up just to defecate or just quickly to do something else. So you don't got to put them away. You just have to roll them up, right? But if indeed, like we do, that we only wear tefillin during shacharis and that's it, and you can't just roll it up and leave it on a table. No. Since you're done with it, you're not going to put it back on again. Then it's like nighttime. So you have to again put in this kis tefach in a pocket it's at least as big as the tefach, which gives it at that magnitude, which is not even that much, but that's called to put it away in its place. Less cloth than that, a pocket small, that would be called that you didn't really put it in its place. It's not a place. It's not an oil. It's just like wrapping in cloth. So it really means that whenever you're done with the tefillin for an extended period of time, that's like nighttime. You got to put it in its pocket that's at least a tefach, right? Amar ba lo shenicham bekli shu kelyon, avol nicham bekli she'eno kelyon afilu pachot mi tefach. So Abai says, interesting that you want it to be a tefach. That's called it. It's been put away in its compartment. It is exactly for that reason, right? Right. Because since it is designated for the tefillin. Whatever is designated for the tefillin is like tefillin. It has to be treated with kedusha like tefillin, except that when it's big enough, it's a whole tefach. So even though it's designated for the tefillin, it's called that the tefillin has been put in a special place because has the dimensions of an ohel. But let's say this pocket is not designated for tefillin. It's not. It's a pocket that's used, pouch that's used for anything. It says Abai, it doesn't really have to be a tefach. Since it's not meant for tefillin, it doesn't have to do just tefillin. So it's called that the tefillin is protected by something else. It's only when it's designated for tefillin that it has, it's treated like tefillin. What's designated for tefillin is treated like tefillin. That's not called that you put it away. But if it's big enough, it's called that you put it away, despite the fact that it's designated for tefillin. But if it's not designated for tefillin, so even if it's less than a tefach, as long as it's just covered, it's called that you put it away, because the covering is a foreign object, not designated for tefillin. So it's called that tefillin is protected by something else, right? Amar Baba Chana so it said Rabba, the son of Barchana, Ki Avina Azle Basrei to Rabbi Yochanan. When we used to follow Rabbi Yochanan around, Ki Ava Boil Mezal, the Besa Kise, if he ever wanted to go into the bathroom, Ki Ava Nakita Safra Gata Hav Yoav Lon, right? If he was holding a book of Agadata, let's say a Medrash, right? As an example, he would give it to us. Say, right, hey, hold this safer for me. He didn't, didn't take the safer into the bathroom with him, right? Kastan tefillin lo have long, right? Right, but a covered tefillin, he would not give us, right? He would not take advantage of us being there and giving it to us, right? Amar Ho v'shor Rabban, since the rabbis openly and explicitly permitted bringing it into the bathroom to protect from, like we learned, to protect from being framed, or blackmailed, right? Since they specifically permitted, I do not have to now trouble you guys. Right, that Chazal specifically and openly permitted. Right. So Tana Rabbanon, so the Rabbanon learned Lo Yochazal B'Tfilin B'Yado V'Sefer Torah B'Zrav V'Yispal, right? Regarding holding tefillin in hand, as opposed to wearing tefillin, or holding a Sefer Torah, right? Don't hold it and daven, right? Right? I do not hold them, and daven, because it'll disrupt your kavanah. Right? Because since you're careful to watch it and watch that version and fall, you're not going to concentrate on your davening, right? So you have to put them down in a safe place and daven, right? Because you'll be distracted if you're holding them. Right? Below yashtim bahem mayim. So now we are actually outlawing, urinating in them, right? Right. So now Rabbeinu Yonah explains, this is going back on holding tefillin in hand, right? Right. This is, again, it's, when in hand, right, you have to be careful. Right, so Rabbeinu Yonah says, Afka bottom biyodo, this is talking about while they're still in hand. That which does not contradict what we learned in the previous Amud, that when you're on your head, you may urinate with them, but in basic kise arai, you may urinate them if you're in a base kise that is not kavua. So it's not kavua. You're not going to be induced, by your environment. The environment is not going to prompt you to have a bowel movement or to pass gas if it's a base kise arai. Right. Right. So it's interesting. He's saying over here that that is holding tefillin in hand, right, could be more stringent, right, than more stringent than actually having tefillin, wearing the tefillin, right? Because it seems that it's talking about over here when you're holding it in hand in a manner that it's not secure. Not urinate while it's not secure in your hand. It is secure when it's on your head and when it's tied to your hand, when wearing it. Then it's secure, and then again, the urinating is mutter if you're not in the base hakise kavua, right? Because if it's not a set place where people have bowel movements, you're not at all, induced by your environment to have a bowel movement or to pass gas. So it must be talking over here that it's in hand, but in hand, not properly protected. right? So you might be distracted by your urinating, and they might fall. Right? No, it's not a problem if you're wearing it. Then it is well protected. You just have to. So then you may urinate in them. Right? Lo yashabem lo do not sleep within tefillin. Not a sleep of half an hour, which is called chance ever, right? And not even a shena sarai, because when you are asleep, you may pass gas. Right? That's what it seems. That the but it seems as far as not urinating while holding tefillin, it would seem, the yeah, it would seem that it's talking about that you're not holding them securely in your hand, because so it shouldn't contradict what we learned before, that when you go into the Beis Hakisei, right, you roll it up, or rather you. Whether like Rabbi Kiva, you roll it up and hold it, or like Rabbi Shua ben, the Mashia, the grandson of Shua ben Levi said, roll it up and roll up the Ritzuas and hold it in your bare hand. And so over there, it's talking about it's secure. Over here, it's talking about you're holding it and it's not properly secure. So you should not urinate in them either. Urinate holding them lest you drop. Right? But then, and do not sleep, while holding, not even when wearing tefillin, lest unless you pass gas while you're asleep. Um, right, a knife, right, or a plate full of food, right, or that's all right. What was the other one? Um, and a loaf of bread or coins. You should not daven while holding these things in hand. Right? Is going back to halacha of not davening while these things are in hand, because all these things are going to distract your kavana. Right? Knife, you want to make sure you don't cut yourself or cut anyone else. The plate of food, you don't want the food to fall off the plate, right? And your loaf of bread or your money, obviously you're going to have your money that shouldn't get dirty, or none of it should fall. So therefore, do not daven when having any of these things in hand. Um, by the way, it should be pointed out. The I think I said this, but I'll say it again. The Rabbeinu Yonah, says again, this do not sleep in them. That's talking about he holds. The Rabbeinu Yonah, you ask your local that he holds that if the tefillin are properly on you, properly secured, you may sleep shenas arai. Only shenas kevas also, lest you pass gas. I believe, if I remember correctly, there are those that hold even Shena Sarai, when wearing tefillin, is usher, because also you may pass gas. Right? Even a temporary sleep or momentary sleep. But regardless, this is the halacha. Everyone admits that you cannot sleep, not a shenas keva, not a shenas sarai, if it's in hand. Like, this is the context of these halachas, because when you fall asleep, your grip loosens and you'll drop them. So when tefillin are in hand, do not sleep in any way, shape, or form. Okay. Um, now, so basically, this the Rif is commenting to make order out of all these different halachas that we learned. So even though, says the Rif, even though we have permitted to bring tefillin into a Beis HaKisei Kavua, a set place where people have bowel movement. Like we said, we're also big of Ubiyodo V'nichnas, where it's Rabbi Akiva, said you could put it in your hand, roll it up and continue to hold it. It's gonna write Asur, right? But nonetheless, interestingly enough, in a temporary Beis HaKisei, we're not a set place for defecation. It's actually prohibited to do that either, right? You may not do that. My time basically go luckily tells fikach shori. So you can tell fikach also feel also big of the other lahashtim. So says the Rif, interesting halacha. I'll ask you look but it says like this. A place that's not a base kisei kavua, right? So it's just people just use every once in a while. So it's not designed for that. Since it's not designed for that, the ground is flat, and when you urinate, there's like sparks, little drops that fall on you, right? And those drops that fall, right? These things are right, right. So these drops that fall on your legs, right? Right. Right. These things need to be wiped. Right? They have to wipe off the drops that fall on your legs. And whether because it's not designed, generally, basically, fake kavua is designed. You stand in a high place and you urinate to a low place, and none of it should, dirty your legs. And so, in this case, since there'll be drops that you must wipe off, because if you come out with your legs dirty with urine, they'll think that you're a eunuch, right? That because eunuchs, don't have, they're not able to urinate with force. They'll assume that you're a eunuch, and if so, they'll suspect that the children that your wife had with you are not really your children. And since you're going to have to wipe off these, these drops, right? To wipe off these drops. Right. And so I guess that's either the drops or the need to wipe off the drops may cause the tefillin to get defiled or fall. I guess that is the point over here. So as Rabbeinu Yonah brings from Rav Hai Gaon, this doesn't apply. This is this doesn't apply any time that the circumstances are as such, right? That the urine, that you urinate, goes to a low place and doesn't bounce back on your legs, right? So when you have that problem, then don't bring your tefillin in at all. If there's a problem of the urine going on your legs. Gasim Perka Makaba, Ami the Bay Rabbi Yana, the tefillah of the tefillin arba kabin. You know what? Let's stop here for the time being. We're going to now go into the laws, which we should do all together, right? Of what you're allowed to carry or have on you, baggage. You're allowed to have at you, when you're wearing tefillin or when you're davening. Let's just start from this point, later today or tomorrow. Thank you very much.